Hello and welcome to focusIR. I am John Human and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Arsen Torosian, who is founder and CEO of a newly AIM listed TAP. How are you doing, Arsen?
I'm good, John. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very, very well indeed. So first of all, many congratulations on the successful AIM listing, switched over from Aquis this week, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons behind that in a minute. But perhaps first of all, Arsen, tell us a bit about yourself and TAP. You know how you came to found what is quite an innovative company in the fintech space. Fintech being hugely underrepresented on the London stock market. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to found TAP.
So, John, my name is Arsen Torosian. I'm the CEO and founder of Tab. So, my background comes from development. I started early on in my age trying to self-code. I started making some websites and those sort of things. That led me into when the iPhone was introduced. I became a game developer. I started pushing out video games. Like I saw Crash Bandicoot, one of the most famous video games. So I kind of got addicted and wanted to create the same things. Never reached that type of quality, but always trying to look up to. Now, eventually, I end up getting burned out through the development cycle. So I decided to try and transition into something new. And that's where I kind of came up into Bitcoin, which then transitioned me into a cryptocurrency broker. Now, during my period of buying and selling crypto, one of the issues that I encountered was the banks, after a while, they would say pretty much what you're doing. They would check into your account and then they would say, well, we don't like what the trades that you're doing, because we don't understand Bitcoin. So here's a letter of termination. You can take your money and go to a different bank. So eventually it led me to go through every single bank in the UK and receive that same letter eventually from every single one of them, to the point where I thought, okay, if I'm suffering from this problem, and there's definitely other people because I know they buy Bitcoin. So what can we do to combine from my development knowledge, some APIs, some payment accounts, and those sort of things, and then just allow crypto trading into one app? And that's pretty much how the idea of TAP came out.
So it really came about as the solution to a problem which many of the sort of best businesses obviously do. And I think, here today, we've reached that point where digital assets have become accepted into the mainstream. But you're doing something a little bit more than that. You're bridging what you sort of the traditional, if I can use that word, world of e-banking and digital assets. Tell us exactly what TAP Global does and who it serves.
So we've taken a different approach compared to what some of our competitors might have done. Usually when you enter a niche market, you want to be as specific to that niche. But we believe because there's always cycles in every type of industry, one of the things that we're trying to do is try to make sure that we don't put all our eggs into one basket. So, and that applies to a product itself. You can be crypto native, you can be e-banking native, fintech native. But what we're trying to do is figure out the best parts from the fintech industry, the best parts from the crypto industry, the functionalities, the desired outcome from a user perspective, and try to figure out as well how we can combine it together in a compliant manner. Because at the end of the day, most of the times where we can't deliver a feature is usually because there is regulation, laws behind it, and those sort of things. So our job is to pretty much navigate throughout the sea of laws and regs in order to figure out what's the best product we can build for our users in the best possible outcome.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned the word regulation. That not something you hear very often, but it's sort of one of the things that I think makes TAP, a very different business. From the start, you've embraced regulation. You run the business in a very sort of efficient way, from what I understand. Tell us about how you operate and that sort of philosophy behind it, and why that's essentially leads you coming to AIM as a profitable, cash generative business.
I appreciate the kind words. So the way we saw it early days of TAP was we're always trying to look ahead. I mean, the inception or the idea of TAP started in 2016. And during the process, we were thinking, okay, what else might come in the industry? And we've seen it from the gaming industry, for example, when it was the Wild West, and then a few jurisdictions such as Gibraltar actually introduced like gambling regulation. So we took kind of the same approach. We thought, you know what, let's do the difficult work now, so at least we're prepared. And when regulation comes in, whether it's in Europe, UK, and so forth, at least we're prepared. We've got a clean slate because the other thing that you don't want to do as a business is, and we've seen it, for example, with massive crypto companies such as Binance, where they're forced to clean up their books, they get massive fines. We thought, you know what, let's start clean, and any other place we might migrate to get a new license, at least we know once we go to the regulator, they won't say, well, you've done a lot of dirty things in the past, so your licensing process just became 10 times harder type of thing. And that was kind of the ethos. Let's build it properly the first time.
Yeah, and sort of in terms of building the business and rolling out functionality, as I kind of alluded to there, you're doing that in a very methodical manner. Let's talk about that sort of side of the business.
So we're always trying to come up, obviously, with solutions that our users want, but also we're trying to balance cash flow, because one of the things that we've seen in the past is, and especially in the fintech space, is companies try to rush to introduce features, introduce partnerships, and those sort of things. But those partnerships usually come up with upfront costs, setup fees, monthly fees, transactional fees, and those sort of things, which, if not calculated properly, they might amount to a very big figure. So what we pretty much methodically tried to introduce features where we know, okay, here's the cash flow that we have right now. Here's how long this feature will take for us to develop, and then we just simply implement it. We try to get a return of investment in that, or at least try to break it even, and then we move into the next feature. And which is why a lot of fintechs on our size, or fintechs that have raised 10 times the amount of money that we have, and even recently there was one that was powered by HSBC. Eventually, after a year of burning 200 million, they had to shut down. We don't want to have the same faith. Or the same fate. And at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to our shareholders as well. I know sometimes they might say, well, why don't you grow faster? Well, because right now at our means, this is what we can do, but that doesn't mean our ambitions are not much greater.
Absolutely. I think that actually that's one of the hallmarks of the investment case. And I guess, part of the decision to come over to AIM is that it gives you a much wider investment audience to go after. Talk us through the investment case. Why should AIM investors be looking at Tap?
So if you think about us, is imagine, for example, Revolut, Monzo, Starlings at their early age, right? Retail people would love to take in position. And yeah, there was some crowd cubes and those sort of things where some retail people could take a position with those companies. But at that point, they were taking also massive risk because their business cases weren't fully concluded. They didn't have the size. They might not have had the funding at that point. So retail investors were taking a huge gamble whether these fintechs would succeed. And some won, some lost. With us, we've proven our case. We've proven our business model. There is product market fit. We pretty much have taken off the risk from a product perspective. We've built the product. We're here and we've been live for the past 5 years. We've done the regulation. So we've minimized or downsized the risk from a retail investor perspective. And we've given a higher upside because given that we're now cash flow positive, it also means that all we have to do is just stick with what we do, grow the way we've grown. And now that we are on AIM, potentially, eventually in the future, raise more capital to pretty much expedite the strategies that actually work.
Back to that discipline. It is a huge differentiator in a high growth industry. So let's talk about the immediate future. What's on the agenda now? You've completed the switch to AIM. 380,000 users under your belt. What comes next?
So we've recently rolled out our own internal CRM system, which usually you see competitors go with third-party solutions. What we've done is we decided to build one from scratch ourselves. That's mostly to make sure that our customers' data are safe, because you never know third-party tools, what data might leak. And we've seen not companies such as Coinbase having leaked. So we try to build all our tools internally, and those includes as well marketing tools. So we've rolled that one out. So there's going to be a lot more engagement with our users on the platform in order to try to convert them into seeing more offers, for example, or make sure that price alerts are going out in a timely manner and those sort of things. And then we are also looking to expand our cards as a service, which is a product where pretty much any financial institution or even non-financial institution could just simply plug in our APIs and offer a card to all their clientele, whether this could be a gaming company, For example, let's say, I don't know, a game that has 100 million players playing tanks, right? We can offer a tank card, and that's 100 million potential users that we could get. That's the two offerings right now that we are really pushing.
So lots and lots to come, and you've got a great team behind you as well. Not least Peter Wall talks about through Peter's involvement in the business. Peter Wall, obviously of Argo Blockchain.
So Peter has been very influential in the business. So from the moment he came in, we saw a quick shift in culture. Obviously, we've gone through a lot of changes from a management perspective over the past 2 years. And as you can expect, usually culture is the one that takes the beating. So as he came in, the first task was to make sure the culture of the company is strong, make sure that the team is working all together, having the same goals. So we've grown as a team. That let's say he's been very influential to make sure that the team is working as a clock.
It's often said that culture eats strategy, but it sounds like you've got not just the culture in place, but the strategy too. Congratulations once again, Arsen, on your transition to AIM and for what you've achieved in the business so far. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, John.